Hey, what's up? My name is Ken, and this is my Sunday Freeze top load stem in-depth review. So to start off, this thing's 10.5 ounces in weight, which is a little on the heavier side for most BMX stems, but I really don't notice the difference between just a few ounces on the front end of my bike, and you probably won't either, so you really shouldn't worry about the weight all that much. As far as the composition of the stem goes, it's made out of 6061 T6 aluminum, which is a little lower grade than typically the more expensive stems are in BMX, which are made out of 7075 aluminum. Additionally, I believe it's cast iron rather than being CNC machined, so it's also a little lower quality in the way it's produced, but this thing is only $30, which is really cheap. Stems are usually twice that cost, so it's really a trade-off depending on whether you want a cheaper stem or if you want to go with a little more expensive one that's a little more durable, might last you a little longer, and be a little higher quality overall. So as far as the reach or the length of the stem goes, that's 52 millimeters. The shortest stems are typically 48 millimeters in reach, and the longest ones are usually about 54 or 55 millimeters. The shorter ones are usually the more snappy and reactive, like when you're turning your bars and whatnot, whereas the longer ones are usually a little more stable, but a little slower to react to turning the bars and such. As far as the rise goes, or like the height it boosts your bars up, that's 34 millimeters in rise, which is pretty good. That's one of the tallest stems on the market, I believe. 34 millimeters translates to about 1.34 inches, which is pretty good as far as the rise goes. So that'll really boost your bars up very high. The typical front load stem is about 6 to 10, maybe even 12 millimeters, which translates to about 1/3 of an inch. So this thing is about an inch taller than your typical front load stem. So maybe if you're looking to try like a higher setup perhaps on your front, this would be a good alternative to buying bars that are an inch bigger or throwing a bunch of extra spacers on your bike and making it look a little goofy in the front end. So as far as my own personal experience with the stem goes, I've had two of them. So this is the first, and I'm currently running a second one. So this first one I had a really bad experience with. I bought it, I think I had it in like 2013, something like that, got it for the holidays, and I had a pair of Fit Inman bars that were 8.3 rise, good quality bars, and I'd been running them for about 3/4 of a year with a different, I think just the stock front load stem my complete bike back in the day, my FBM came with, and they were okay, and then once I put this one on, they were slipping like a good amount. So they might have had a little bit of wear, but this thing definitely didn't hold it down that well. I'd have to retighten it a lot. And then about 3/4 of a year later, I decided I'd just try new bars because those were kind of getting stripped out a bit. So I bought some Mike Hoder S&M bars, 8.69 rise, real good quality bars. This thing stripped the heck out of them in about a month, which is really bad. So the whole right side of the knurling area on the bars themselves, my Hoder bars back then, was completely stripped off. There was like no knurling, like crosshatch patterns left. It was just like the pure like chromoly the bars are made out of. The bars were colored gold, so you could really like tell the difference, and they're basically unrideable because this thing stripped the heck out of them. So after that, I decided to take this one off because this one was obviously old and beat after about 1.5 years, but I probably should have taken it off after maybe a little under a year really. As far as my new Sunday Freeze stem, which I actually got at the same time as this first one because my aunt accidentally ordered two, this I've had a lot better experience with. It doesn't slip all that often, and I've been jumping down bigger things nowadays, like usually like 4 to maybe 8 or even 9 stairs on occasion, whereas this one was almost exclusively flat ground, so that's a pretty bad sign. I also just want to note that especially with this first stem, I was not an everyday rider. I probably rode about 2 days out of the week maybe, because between school and like skateboarding a little bit as well, I just didn't have that much time for it. So like I said, a newer one though has been a lot better, and I've run it for about a year, and I've had it with the same pair of bars, hasn't stripped them out. I have the United Grande bars, so it really hasn't been too bad. So overall, I think that this stem is alright. I'd give it maybe a 6.5 out of 10, maybe 6, but just my first experience was really, really bad. And this is, obviously if you're balling on a budget, this might be a good stem. But as far as my recommendations go, I'd say maybe run it for about 3 to 4 months if you're just trying to get used to maybe taller bars, a taller setup, or you just are strapped for cash and don't have the money for a $60 or $70 stem, and you can just run this in the meantime while you're saving up. But I really wouldn't recommend running it long term. Just also to note, as far as this stem goes, a Sunday Freeze top load, almost none of the pro riders run it. I think they have 6 pro riders, and 5 of them don't run this, but they run stem by their other sponsors. Like Jake Seeley runs a profile stem, Aaron Ross and I think it's Mark Burnett run Odyssey stems, so neither of them have chosen to run the stem. This is also the only stem that Sunday makes, so you think if a pro rider was going to run a Sunday stem, they'd have to run this one. And I believe Eric Elstrand still does. but he's the only one out of 6 who do. So that's important to keep in mind when pros goes. A lot of them aren't riding it, and this is the only one they make for the team. It comes on a lot of their completes, like they're typically lower level, but I know like the highest one, which I think is a complete Sunday broadcaster, it doesn't come with it. So again, overall, 6 or 6.5 out of 10. Run it short term, but I really wouldn't recommend it long term. Definitely spend a little more money and get something nicer if you're looking to be BMXing like pretty often.